WrestleTalk!
Friendship wins because the Judgment Day are back together on the same page. ...
For now.
Again. For now. I'm Luco in DAD. I'm joined by your Jam That Champion, the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton. And welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. Help us get to 85,000 subscribers. Should try to get us to 80. Fightful just passed 100,000 subs. So massive congratulations to the team at Fightful who have worked so tirelessly. And I've got an amazing team. But I did have this pang of jealousy. I'm like, where's my... What? Yeah,
I've been doing this.
Where's my football?
I've been doing this for like 10 years now. I still don't have one. So like,
yeah. What are you on?
YouTube.
No, numbers wise, you did.
Oh, like 92,000 or something. I've been hovering close to that 100,000 for a while. But you see, the thing is, I don't make any effort. Yeah. And it's effort that is rewarded. So we make a lot of effort on this channel, so please do join us for the ride.
And press the thumbs up button as well. And if you're watching this on demand, get your comments in down below with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And if you're watching live, get in your alpha chat to WrestleTalk.com/support. Thank you all so much for those who just joined me on Instagram Live. Had a great time. And I think I might do it for some other live streams.
Granddad's learning, everybody. He's really getting it.
I don't like that I'm being bumped up to Granddad. Just Dad is fine. You said that I felt very dadly because I referred to you by your first name.
Yeah, the other day when we were having a conversation on Twitter about All In, you used some of your characters to give me my name, and that made me feel like I was being told off. And I was like, I've never felt so like a child. You said, Dan, and I was like, I went and cried for a minute.
But anyway, we're going to talk about this episode of Monday Night Raw. I don't think this podcast will be as long as yesterday's podcast.
Well, nobody backstage was doing anything particularly controversial.
As far as I know, everyone was just nice to each other backstage. And, no one got banned from being in the arena. Did you see the Instagram? I don't know if it was an Instagram video, but the video with Rhea and Dominic?
Oh, yeah, the TikTok.
Yeah. The hand thing.
Oh, it was quite something. Rhea knows exactly how to make the internet talk about Rhea.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can see the moment where Dom pops a boner. It's like if you go through freeze frame by freeze frame, there's that moment where he's like, oh!
The other thing that and this might make us have a big conversation, which is in contrast to yesterday, is that where All In is struggling with a card and very little build, what we get here is never-ending build. The build, and then we'll just do it again. And again.
Yeah.
So
we were going to lead with Becky and Trish, but we thought, you know what?
We'll save the rant for later in the show.
There's a lot of negativity in wrestling YouTube at the moment because, well, CM Punk's in the news. So, like, let's just try and talk about something that's a bit more fun.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not hugely, like, up on it. Because I thought this was a bit of a bland episode of Raw.
Yeah.
And it got to, like, the end of the show, and Cody just pinned Finn because of miscommunication in the Judgment Day, and I was like, oof magoof, like this show needs something. And then blow me down, something did happen, and we got like a bit of a hot angle at the end of the show, and I was like, oh, do you know what? And I did have this moment of like, yeah, the Judgment Day are back together. And I think that's a really a plus point I would give to Triple H, because he's managed to convince me that this storyline that has gone nowhere fast is going somewhere. And I sort of feel like it is. But there was a point in the show where I was like, oh, the Judgment Day Open. We're the Judgment Day and we run Monday Night Raw. I'm Senor Money in the Bank. Where's Finn Balor? He should have won at SummerSlam. And then there was a backstage segment where Balor and Priest were arguing and Rhea broke. And I was like, I've seen this segment so many times. I'm really waiting for this chapter to go somewhere. And then by the end of the show, I was like, well, maybe I think I am still into this, actually.
Well, I think what is specific to that, my take on the show overall was that, yes, it was very much like a table setter. Like, it's, we've got a show coming up at the end of the month, so he's putting his chess pieces on the board to do this next push for this next show. A lot of seeds being sown in various angles in this show, which I did appreciate. For me, there was a new addition to the Judgment Day wrinkles, which was JD McDonaugh, has been added in, not just a sort of hint way, in a very proactive sort of front and center. This person is involved in this story now, and I think that's what made it feel a little bit different. That's what made it feel like it was developing.
Because you can make the argument that he saved the team at the end of this show. And like that's 2 weeks in a row now. He took out Sami Zayn last week, and granted that didn't pay off in the end because Judgment Day lost last week. And then on this week's show, they lost again, but they did stand tall at the end of the show because of JD.
That's it. I think the thing that combines the two of them, because they lost last week, they lost this week. But what it is when they listen to JD, when JD gets involved and they allow it, they succeed. And it's this idea of what Rhea was saying in the middle of the show. We're not being taken seriously. We run the night rule, but like we're kind of in disarray here, and everyone can see it, and it's a bit cringe actually. That came good by the end. It was like this moment of it, and it was again. I did the same thing of they're doing the briefcase spot again, which does sound like again, especially because at the beginning of the show, them coming out doing the promo, I was like, again. But by the way it had fed during the show, the way it built during the show, and it is the very Triple H thing of throughout the show, we will go back to this particular piece. There was something fresh about it, which made me go, oh, okay, I like the fact that they are showing that once again, this strategy is not working. So maybe we do actually need to let someone in.
And I think next week we're going to get that moment where Balor is going to present the idea of JD joining the group, and Damian Priest, perhaps because of what happened on this week's show, will be like, "Yeah, do you know what? Let's give him a chance." Or maybe like they'll say he can do, but he's going to be put on trial, and we're going to he's got to go through some various hoops, jump through some various hoops in order to join the group, and we can get that story next week. But I thought this was kind of a nice building block for that. The problem was that because there was not a lot else on the show, you just having sort of one crumb of a building block meant that the show did feel a little bit lacking overall.
I don't know that I fully agree with that. I do think it was lacking. I do think the show was not was ultimately a skippable episode of Raw. There are a handful of bits where I'm like, watch that, and we'll get into it. There's one bit where I've got a lot to say, but overall, it was a show where I think there were a number of bits being put in place, which always is a tricky thing to do.
Yeah.
You almost want, this is firing so that I can begin this one, and then when that one finishes, this one's grown so I can build a new one, and it's this constant massaging of pieces into place where after a SummerSlam, it's the same as after a WrestleMania, you kind of are at empty. So you've got to start feeding, and that does feel bitty. That does feel empty. But with this particular storyline, I think because it was laced throughout the show, and we've talked about this before, it had been seeded months ago, and then he went away, dropped, and now it's back. And in that time, we have had many conversations about, okay, so where's this dissension in the Judgment Day going to go? Like, are they going to break up? Are they going to turn on Finn? Are they going to do whatever? Because we've had all of these conversations in absentia, it now feels maybe like the storyline is behind us a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't actually mind that we are seeing the genesis of an actual story.
I think it's needed.
Yeah.
Because I think some people have sort of been spinning their wheels for a little bit. Like, I think you can very much draw a line in the sand of when Vince had his fingers in the creative pie and when he's gone away. Like, you really can just pinpoint the weeks that he came in and started making changes and the weeks where he's no longer making changes.
Yeah.
And that started last week because all of a sudden the JD McDonaugh and Judgment Day storyline is just back on TV and Indi Hartwell and Candice Ray are just back on TV.
Yeah.
And like Tommaso Ciampa on social media was doing this whole thing about he's searching for Johnny Gargano. Like, I'd made the joke today. It was like, once we get the DIY reunion, like that's the Triple H bingo card of just like, I'm now back in control.
With Chelsea Green, who we see on the show, was with Piper Niven, who is back on TV.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of back on TV.
There's a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto the Piper thing because I think that was a missed opportunity, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But the show opened up with Judgment Day, who did the same promo that they've done recently, but JD McDonaugh came out to pass on a message to them from his friend Finn Balor. But it was all to be like, hey, well, look, we're all good. It's a friendly message. I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. I'm Joe, just Joe. A nice little Attitude Era callback. And then Sammy came down, Zayn that is, and they had a little brawl, and that led to a match between JD and Sammy. Well, I suppose we'll just cover all the Judgment Day stuff in this opening gambit here.
Quick one on the beginning, though, sorry. It was that Dom had a great line, which was they just found out Canada's a part of North America, which very much entertained me. We've got currently both Mysterios are singles champions, Whereas Rey Mysterio is the champion of the US, Dom is champion of the entire continent of North America, which makes him better. But he's only just found out that Canada is part of North America. Very funny line. This crowd sucked ass.
Apart from when booing Dom, which they were great.
Well, because they were... I think that was boo.wav. Because judging by the rest of the show, they were dead as a doornail.
The only reason I didn't think it was boo.wav is because of Priest's reaction to it, and it felt like...
I think they just do it. Because they know they're gonna press play.
That's
so
fair.
It's like a bit of performance.
That's fair.
But the thing is,
I might be giving the crowd more credit.
Well, what I'm not saying by that is detriment to the cast of the show. I think, because everyone, and this comes back in other segments of the show, everyone kind of is giving really good work and being given nothing in response. And I think shame on you, Winnipeg. But also, you did get called the armpit of Canada a lot during this show, so maybe I feel a little bit bad for you at the same time.
Yeah, well, I didn't like that promo at all.
No, I also loved when Sammy does come out and has an attack on JD, he does reach for the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day is sort of standing there looking.
Yeah, they didn't
and
help.
I thought that was a really nice little visual, to begin the through line of the whole show.
Exactly, because then you've got JD helping them at the end of the show, which I think, again, is going to tie into this whole thing they'll probably do next week. But yeah, JD took on Sami Zayn. This was a match that was designed to get JD over. It was meant to make him look good in defeat, and I think they did a sort of an admirable job of that. They kind of gave him some big moments in this to show off what he can do. And I have seen some people kind of making fun of JD online. SpongeBob SquareHead.
He does have as my Irish friends would say, he has got quite a head on him.
Yeah. I mean, well, people got big head Balor,
right?
Because he looks like. I mean, this is clearly. I don't know what it is. But Americans think that they look identical, Balor and JD, but they look nothing alike.
We see they're both from Bray, County Wicklow, Ireland, and they both wrestle in black trunks.
Is that what it is?
I assume.
Because they look nothing alike.
No.
But people are like, oh my God, they're spitting image of each other.
They've both got quite big eyes.
Yeah. And he looks like Finn Balor, but with a massive head.
Right.
He's got quite a head on him. But yeah, Sami Zayn picked up the win with the Haluva kick, despite some distraction from Finn Balor. But yeah, this was because JD this is his second match since being called up, so you had to do something like this, try and give a bit of reset to him.
No, exactly, and he got some, as you say, he got some moments in there. He was repeated leaping over things to drag Sammy's injured arm, like he did it over the ring a couple of times. He did it over the barricade. It was really good. There was a moment where he wrenched the arm. He was standing on Sammy and then wrenched backwards. Come back from the commercial. He's got a crossface on. He got some really good moves in there. But at the end of the day, Sami Zayn was a main event of WrestleMania this year. He's one of the three biggest stars on Monday Night Raw, if not on the entire show at the moment. So he's got to get the win, and it's not. I don't think it makes JD look bad. I think it was a good showing for him at this point.
We had the backstage segment that we talked about earlier with Balor and Priest arguing. JD walked up and then Priest sent him away, and Rhea Ripley tried to get them on the same page. And it all built to the main event of Cody Rhodes versus Finn Balor. Lots of interference from the Judgment Day in this, but 3 pins in 2 weeks for poor Finn. As the finish saw, Dom passed a chair to Finn. Referee saw that. They used it as a big distraction. Rhea got up on the apron. Dom was distracting the referee. And Balor called for Damian Priest to slide the briefcase to him. And they timed this very well, but it was well goofy. He slid the briefcase to him. It went between his legs and into the hands of Cody Rhodes. And Finn Balor literally went, "Adore!" And then he got clocked with the briefcase. Cody Rhodes hits Priest with it as well, and he pins Balor. That boy ain't challenging for the world title anytime soon.
Not for a while.
Yeah, not a great look for Finn, not a great night for Finn. But then afterwards, JD McDonaugh sort of got in the ring. They all beat everyone up. They beat up Sami Zayn, something brutal. Gave him a razor's edge through the table. Beat up Cody Rhodes in the ring as well. And then they all stood tall at the end.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of development whereby... Do you remember when Judgment Day were... Well, let's not forget, the trajectory of the Judgment Day is that they began as...
Spooky
goths, then they became spooky jobbers, and then what started to make them as a faction work was leaning into the memes. And the story of Judgment Day has sort of been them looking great even though Finn's taken the pin. Let's not forget when Dom turned on Edge and Rey, they lost, and you get that brilliant visual of Finn in pain laughing. That's kind of what began to get them over. They've kind of been getting steam by being a bit goofy, right? So the moment, in a weird way, kind of works for me. I understand why other people might not like that, but I vibe with it.
It's a fine piece of comedy. It's not what I would do for my top heel act.
But then what you do after the fact is what they did after the fact, which is that, the briefcase thing, we keep trying this briefcase thing, we keep trying this plan A, this plan B, it's not working. That's now the repeated thing is give me the briefcase, I'm going to use it. Oh no, they get to use it first, I've been pinned. JD McDonaugh comes in, is the difference maker in terms of evening the numbers, even though they've got the big numbers advantage. And then what they do is pretty brutal. And they stand and they look good and they look brutal in it.
And key to this is that Judgment Day celebrated without JD.
JD was on the outside.
He was just on the outside looking up, happy as Larry that he's helped Finn, his friend.
And what Michael Cole had said earlier on during the match was that JD McDonough's been kind of like auditioning for the Judgment Day, which I don't know if that's quite true. Like that's not quite what's been happening.
But I say that for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Including this week.
Auditioning or like being a friend of Finn Balor and like talking to them.
I think
show off.
Taking out Sami Zayn last week is sort of an audition piece because he put Sami Zayn on the injured shelf and it was like somehow he miraculously got medically cleared to wrestle this week.
So I like that he's not fully been enveloped this time.
Yeah, I agree.
I think is an interesting little visual to end the show.
Yeah. But let's get into what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw as I do my best to stall.
I'll take it while you find it if you like. Because Kevin starts us off by saying friendship wins, but also friendship lost against Cody because the power of adversity is stronger than friendship. Balor and Priest's faces when they missed their spot were comical, but the funniest thing on the show was Piper claiming the tag title. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the funny thing, the element of comedy. I think if used well, can be really effective. And I think ultimately it matters what the last thing you saw was. And every time Finn Balor's going to do that, leap over the stairs and into a coup de grace.
So good.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Matt Hennessy here says, I really enjoyed this week's Raw and Judgment Day segments. I think we're ultimately building to a War Games match at Survivor Series between Judgment Day versus Seth, Cody, Sammy, and KO, as they've all been feuding together for the last 2 months. They seem to be teasing a Drew heel turn and a feud with Riddle, which I think is needed. Drew looked annoyed teaming with Matt and annoyed when accepting the match with the New Day on his behalf. They lose next week, Drew turns heel on Riddle, and that's a good feud. The thing I'm most excited for happened before Raw, with Tommaso Ciampa and WWE official's Twitter account posting a video of Ciampa putting up missing posters for Gargano, Ciampa searching for him. We are finally getting DIY back together, and it warms my rebel heart. The Way reunion reportedly got dropped by Vince, while the DIY storyline was reportedly put on hold by him as well. Now Hunter's going ahead with it. So Candice and Indi are being kept together as a team, and Gargano and Ciampa are having their reunion. I do feel bad for Dexter Lumis because he's left without a direction. Keeping Candice and Indi together is good for the women's tag division, and DIY are a great addition for the tag division. With the reunion, the Way reunion being dropped, Lumis is dead in the water. Well, I don't know if we're going to be completely dropping the Way. The Way is a Triple H thing. So
yeah.
I can certainly see that once they kickstart this Johnny Gargano thing, so at the moment it is just a Twitter-only thing. That doesn't mean that...
It's not on the show.
It's not show. It's non-canon. But now that Triple H has got the full book again without any Vince interference, he is 100%...
Interference.
That also works. He's 100% going to do his DIY reunion.
Well,
because
also,
that was his plan for the summer. Like, Gargano's been clean. Like, he's been clear since April. Like, he's like, or it's like May or June or something. He is good to go.
Also, there is another member of the Way, not mentioned in your little piece of reportage here, who is suddenly without a stuff to do.
I don't need Austin Theory back in this group.
No, but if you want to send him and Dexter Lumis off on a thing on their own, like, I guess you could do that. Like,
I mean, like, I don't care for... Well, I don't care for Austin Theory, and I don't care about Dexter Lumis, so that's fine with me.
It's on SmackDown. We'd have to talk.
It's on SmackDown. Do it on main event. Yeah, like it works for me. People got a bit high on Dexter Lumis because there was a clip of him appearing on a TV show where he was actually quite funny.
Well, I like Dexter Lumis.
We
talked about this on my very first show. Was me saying I like the Dexter Lumis stuff, and you telling me off.
I didn't tell you off.
You did. You used my full name. You tweeted about it.
I don't think I did. That's a big character assassination of me. And Kuzu here says, I'm not too surprised that they're having Cody feud with Judgment Day now. There isn't much else for him to do at the moment. The unstoppable Codyverse meets the immovable Judgment Day. It will probably lead to War Games at Survivor Series. Problem is, though, we keep calling the unstoppable Codyverse, but, like, they beat him.
Yeah.
Like, Cody won here. I've seen Sammy and KO beat the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
They're beating them.
I don't see this, by the way, I don't see this as them feuding with Cody. I don't know what that is. I mean, I recognize that they are doing stuff with Cody, but it feels like the story is more about Judgment Day than it is about Judgment Day versus Cody, which leaves Cody and Sammy. Sammy feels more involved because they took out his tag team partner. Cody's just sort of there. And like, I think that leaves Cody open to being in. And he had his program with Dom. That was more Cody Dom, Cody Judgment Day. That's over now. I feel like this just happens to be, we need to get Cody on the card. Judgment Day are also in our main event. This is a good way of getting them both on the show.
Yeah. Let's get into the main show itself and go through this segment by segment. We've already talked about the opening of the show with the Judgment Day and JD, and then we cut backstage to Adam Pearce and Chelsea Green. So it's off the back of Sonya Deville getting injured, possibly out for a year. So she's been out for a while, and Adam Pearce wanted to vacate the belts because that's the protocol that they go through. Into tag partner, you vacate the belt and you put it on Raquel plus partner. That's the standard that we go through. But Chelsea Green didn't want to do that. She did this thing on social media over the weekend where she wanted to do a talent show.
Yeah.
Chelsea's Got Talent.
Did you see the genesis of this? Was on the After the Bell podcast.
Oh, yeah, yes.
So she was doing an interview and they were kind of like coming up on the fly with ideas for like who she could have as a partner or whatever. She was like, maybe I'll do auditions, maybe I'll hold it. And then she came up with this Chelsea's Got Talent thing and ran with it on social media, which is, runs in the family, I guess.
Yeah. I love this idea.
Yeah.
The name is so genius.
Yeah.
Because America's Got Talent is you saying America has got talent. This name is Chelsea Has Talent.
Yeah, it's all about Chelsea.
It's all about Chelsea.
Yeah.
It is a genius name because she is making it sound like, what a great way for you to be my tag partner. But the literal name of the show is I Have Talent.
Yeah. And also the whole business of it being like, almost like she's not been like, guys, so sad for Sonya. Because her and Sonya were sort of put together. She's just straight into like, how do I keep hold of these belts? I don't really care about you. Like, it's not that. It's kind of it's a fun part of this character.
And I was all geared up for some really fun segments because like Truth was doing some stuff on social media as well of auditioning. I was like, there's some really good comedy guys that could do this. Imagine Nikki Cross trying to audition for this. There's a bunch of women on Raw that aren't doing anything at the moment. You could actually run with this for a couple of weeks, do these segments, have fan submissions. You just tweet the WWE Twitter account or Instagram account with your video of why you should be Chelsea Green's partner.
I filmed one that I didn't post.
Like, do you remember on Raw 1000 when they were trying to push tout?
Yes,
and they had like, send in your touts and we'll feature them on the show. And they had people like, cutting whispering promos because they didn't want their parents to hear, where they were like, finally, I've come back to Monday Night Raw. Are you filming something up there? No, shh. Mom, I'm busy. So they could have done something like that. Instead, what happened is the party girls walked in and said, we deserve a title shot. And I'm like, why? The last time I saw you, you lost. And then Piper Niven walked in, beat them up and said, I'm your new tag partner. Chelsea Green was like, well, I was going to hold these auditions. And Piper was like, no, I'm your new tag partner. Grabbed herself the belt. And then WWE.com officially declared that she is one half of the tag champions. This is a missed opportunity.
I agree with you. I think it was a fun thing on the internet. I would have liked to have seen it featured more on Raw. I think missed opportunity is the best way to put it, because I don't think Piper Niven being the one to win it is bad, because I like that Piper Niven's on TV. I don't think that the bit where she goes, no, I'm the champ, and Chelsea's like scared, and she's like, oh, okay. And then like she even posted about it on Twitter. She's like, after reviewing your application and meeting you, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was like, I'm sure you're the best person for the job, because she's just clearly terrified of Piper Niven, which is hilarious. I also really enjoyed that the party girls came in and said, we've just read the TMZ article, which means like, that was a week ago, over a week ago.
I've only just read it.
They've been in a K-hole. They've been partying their head off. Like, eventually the Venga bus comes for us all. They've been so busy partying all week that they've only just found out that Sonya's got an injury. So yeah, I loved that element of them being bantered off and it being Piper Niven. But yeah, I do think it was a missed opportunity to not make more of it.
Because I think you could have done the Piper Niven finish in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Run these vignettes for 3 weeks. Do something a bit different on the show. Do something that's a bit fun, a bit chaotic, a bit wacky, and a bit weird.
Well, because...
And then the punchline is, Piper Niven just walks in and demands that it's her, and Chelsea Green, scared, says, yeah, okay, it's you then.
And I think as well, because these titles in particular have had such a difficult run since Mercedes and Trinity left and put a curse on them, that like this is much better. What we have got, what we saw on the show was much better than another Fatal 4-Way. It could have been even better. I think that's the thing. At least they're trying something different with it.
Absolutely. I like it. There's Piper Niven.
Yeah, I like Piper Niven
because she needs something that's done on TV. Absolutely wasted. Like the last time we saw her was in a losing effort as well in a triple threat. We need more of her on TV. And this should, in theory, get her more on TV. And I think her and Chelsea will do some very entertaining stuff because Piper's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a great. The double act, the odd couple. Couple,
we had Byron Saxton interviewing Cody Rhodes to hype the main event, and then Imperium came out for a promo, and this died of death.
This is where I put this crowd suck.
I also don't fully blame the crowd on this because I thought Gunther's material that he was given was absolute garbage.
Okay.
This is not Gunther's promo heat. Like the armpit of North, like that's 80s foreign monster heel thing.
Right.
That's not who Gunther is. Like I don't like this. Isn't the material you give to Walter or Gunther? Like that's not his character. And the crowd just didn't respond to it. Like he was basically trying to get local sports team heat. And I was like, no, this is not. This isn't you don't give this verbiage to Gunther, and that's why I don't think it worked as well as the crowd were not that great.
That's fair. The crowd being awful is more for what came second for me, but like, yeah, I see your point on that one.
Yeah, well, they popped slightly when Alpha Academy came out. They sort of woke up a little bit for Alpha Academy coming out.
Look, I think you are a paid shill for the Winnipeg crowd because they did not.
I'm trying to level up in Winnipeg.
They did this. If we're saying they woke up when Alpha Academy came out, what they did was this. And then went back to sleep because what happened is Chad Gable comes out and does the babyface thing of like, and I'm going to do that. I beat you, and then I'm going to beat you, and like build. Nothing happened.
Do you know what I think happened? So, because they did make a big loud noise when their music hit. Because Alpha Academy come out and they go like, "Ray!" And then all of them, at the same time, was like, "Shh, I want to hear what he's going to say." And so like we always go like, "Shh, I'm trying to hear what his promo is."
Yeah, because famously crowd like to be quiet.
In Canada, they're very polite.
Oh,
you know, I want to hear what he's going to talk about. And then like, listen, shh.
Is Tempest over there with a little gun, a little maple syrup gun? He's like ready to like, you better say nice things about Canada.
Hockey. And then Ludwig Kaiser. Very good promo as Ludwig Kaiser. He's really good in this, like getting in the ring to talk about. You're basically trying to mac on Maxine Dupree, who then slapped his dick. Still, it was an incredible little thing.
Yeah,
and then it led to a match between Gable and Giovanni Vinci.
I love Kaiser shooting his shot. I really enjoyed it last week. He's like the king of the neg because most people's negs are like, you have really pretty eyes. Do you wear glasses? His are like, or did you wear contacts? Rather, is what I say. His is just like. Everything around you sucks. Come join the good guys,
our guys,
which I love. But I also, it's like, we've learned over the past few years that Otis has like extreme game. Like the women love Otis.
Oh yeah,
all right. He's clearly a master in some form, some room in the house. So it's just not going to work, Kaiser. It's just not going to work, mate. But I love that he's still giving it a go.
I was listening to the Fightful review of this show, and Denise said, I'd actually be quite into Maxine almost falling for the charm somewhat, and then going over to Imperium, sort of dating Kaiser for a bit, and then realizing her mistake and going back to the Alpha Academy.
Yeah, they also really lent into this Barbie and Oppenheimer thing because they're all in pink and they're all in black.
Yeah, it really was like Iron Beach.
Yeah,
like hey, look, my job is wrestle.
And my job is wrestle.
It led to a match between Gable and Vinci. Now.
Someone to your defense of the crowd, by the way, just before we begin, right at the beginning, the bell started, and someone in the crowd valiantly tried to get a "Let's Go Gable" chant going, and it died a death. It really didn't work.
I think Wade Barrett at the start of this match did a better storytelling job than what WWE's creative are doing with Imperium. Because Vinci loses this match, and there's a segment later on backstage where Gunther is again running down Imperium, teasing a split of this group. I have no idea why on earth you would even think of going down this road. And he was like, you lost tonight. And he's talking to Kaiser, like, you getting distracted by women. As per usual, I've got to go and sort this out. It's like, that's not, again, I don't think this is what this group should be doing. Wade Barrett, on the other hand, had a much better storyline when it was like, this is a scouting mission.
Mm.
After this match is done, Giovanni is going to sit there with Gunther and tell him everything he needs to know about Chad Gable. It is not about Vinci winning or losing. It's about him learning what his master needs to do next week in order to obliterate him. Isn't that a much more interesting story than Vinci losing and Gunther being like, "You're not good enough to be part of this group. Boo, I'm a bad heel."
Maybe it's because I've been paying too much attention to Rhea and Dom, but they just get off on it being sub Dom. Like Gunther's the big one in charge. He chops them. He tells them off. So I'm like, "Oh, thanks, master." Like that's really what they're doing.
And anyway, theory one. It was
who?
Sorry, it's because he hit the Chaos Theory and got the win.
Can we have a little discussion about the Chaos Theory?
Yes, please.
Because I love it as a move.
Thank you, Doug Williams.
Don't love it as a finish.
What?
So my problem with it as a finish.
But Doug.
Who's Doug Williams?
Doug Williams. Daniel Layton.
Doug Williams is.
I will give you a full name on that one. I will waste even more characters to address you.
But fine.
I'll call you by your real name. That's how serious I am on this one.
Fair. Yeah, like I love it as a move. I just don't look for it as a finish because as a finish, I'm looking for something that like, and this is a conversation that Pete and Sat had on the SmackDown review a little while ago,
and it's very good.
Yeah, I look for a finish for something that like happens, something that is a definitive bang and you're down. And the Chaos Theory is more impressive in its motion, and I love to see it. It's can he do it? Can he do it? Can he do it? Yeah, he did it. But it's not got the same like wind knocking out of you as like a double power bomb, or as like I would love it if he hit the Chaos Theory, gets up and pulls the Kurt Angle ankle lock. Do you know what I mean?
I get what that means. Yeah, like it doesn't have the snappiness of a stunner or a rock bottom or something like that.
I think it's a wonderful move. It's his signature move. I don't think it should be his finish, which it has been for the past couple of weeks.
But I'm a Doug mark. I'm an unapologetic Doug head. So he busts out the Chaos Theory, and I'm like, yay, Doug.
Yeah.
So like I like it for that. And I remember seeing the Chaos Theory suplex being done in a gym in front of like 15 people and being like, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So it holds a special place in my heart.
And look, it is incredible. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It is an incredible move. It's just that I don't think it's the finish. And I think it's because people pop for it so much that they're going, use that as the finish.
Which you should do. The crowd are reacting to it, use that as the finish. Well, let's do a poll, shall we? Should I need to do this myself? I'll do this myself. Don't worry, Mod Mother. I'll sort this one out. Yeah, you talk about the next bit of this, but I'll do a poll of should it be his finish.
Yeah.
Someone just saying here, Dan is weird. In all caps.
Why? I'm weird because I like when moves like rock bottom that comes out of nowhere. Like the people's elbow shouldn't be the finisher, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just an elbow. Like the stunner is a better finisher than the Luther's press. Like the pedigree is a better finisher than that move where he did the big high knee sort of thing. I feel like the finishes should feel like something that really ends you and knocks you down for the three. And the Chaos Theory is a great move that doesn't quite have that boom, you're winded for three moment. That's finished. That's not weird. That's just wrestling. Anyway, after this moment, Gunther gets back on his table, much to Michael Cole's chagrin, and then has I'm sort of not happy with you losing this match, so now I'm going to take on that one there with the big beard and the t-shirt and the wiggling. And
he beat him with a powerbomb. It took him a little while to get on the same page at one point. And he won with a very impressive powerbomb. And they sort of attacked him after the match, but Chad Gable chased them away.
Yeah, I think what I like about the clash of Imperium and Alpha is that they're both teams of brilliant wrestlers. I think Otis is really good at playing that like kind of big guy sort of character. And I think, but it's like, they're fun with it. Alpha Academy are fun with it. They're incredible wrestlers who are also good at like the comedy, the lightness, the sort of like, I guess, twee elements of wrestling. Whereas Imperium are far more about ring general. Like it's much more serious, also in a similar style. So I love the pairing of the two of them. And yeah, one of the things, if you didn't watch the show, do seek out the end of this because it was really impressive to see Gunther powerbomb Otis like that.
Yeah.
You know.
And they announced later on, because we've kind of already talked about the segment as itself, but they announced next week it's Gunther versus Gable for the IC title.
I think we thought it was going to be a little payback moment.
Yeah.
But no. Maybe the Honky Tonk Man is his opponent for payback.
Not Kathy Kelly interviewed Drew earlier in the day about sort of, what are you going to be doing next, Drew? And Matt Riddle walked up and said, hey, it used to be Elias. It used to be Randy Orton. It used to be Timothy Thatcher. It used to be Pete Dunne. Would you like to join that list of my comedy tag partners? And Drew was like, well, if you can't find anyone else, yeah, I guess it's me.
There was something, this was the very first moment of, again, a little, and it wasn't through the whole show, it was segment. It was like basically one whole segment plus a little bit later on, where again, more seeds were being planted. We've talked about, someone last week mentioned when we were talking about Cody and what does Cody do next, we were talking about Drew as a potential new opponent. This felt for me like the seeds of a Drew turn.
100%.
Because you've got, it looked like he was getting really quite annoyed with Riddle. And then...
Like you.
What? Oh, but you're quite annoyed with Riddle, yeah. He's got far more patience than I have. Not trying to... At least he hasn't got the bongos out in a while. Good God, do you remember the bongos?
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't forget it, then. It sounds like bong.
Well, speaking of jokes about getting high...
Well, yeah. So we also had a video promo in here for Indi Hartwell. Lol, Vince ain't here. And we got a match. It was a Viking Raiders Open Challenge match. And it was at this point here I suddenly realized, oh, the feud with them and... Alpha Academy finished. I wanted a bigger blow off to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Viking rules match,
and
then the Maxine singles match, I guess, was your end.
I wanted something bigger out of that.
Yeah, I think they deserved the SummerSlam moment.
I would have liked a trios match at SummerSlam. I think they earned that.
Yeah,
on the pre-show.
Yeah,
would have been totally fine. It's already an hour. Like, because Triple H there being like, well, I don't want to have 2 long shows. We're like, well, then you've already got an hour. Just put on the pre-show then. Like, it's not going to extend the show any further. I don't need to hear what Booker T has to think about,
Listen,
upcoming
sometimes
matches.
You need a shucky ducky quack quack moment.
So, this was Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre versus the Viking Raiders. In this, Michael Cole suggested that they should be called the Scottish Highlanders. And Wade Barrett suggested the Edinbros.
Glasbro!
And they ended... Eventually, Matt Riddle called them backstage the Glasbros.
Glasbro was they said it in the beginning. It's much better. It's right there.
He's not from either of those places.
He's from Scotland, but he has the Glasgow kiss at the very least.
I know, but it's one of those things. Just like, yeah, Glasbros are better. I was like, it's not from. Is Air in Glasgow?
Just gonna check where Air is.
And my Scottish knowledge, as I've said before, I've only been to Scotland once, and it was to drive basically around the M6 so I could get around to T-Bay and to go to T-Bay services.
Glasgow is roughly in the middle of Ayr and Edinburgh. Ayr is there.
Yeah.
Glasgow is there.
Right.
Edinburgh is there.
So I was right. He is from neither of those places.
No, he's but like the Kilmarnock Bros,
which is why
also to just as a point, right? There is Ayr in Scotland. The Highlands are up here. They're called high because they're at the top, so they can't be Highlanders either.
I mean, they're not going to be a team for much longer.
So, well, I think we've got a couple of weeks, actually.
And they won.
There was a moment in this match where Drew kind of got exasperated at Riddle. Yeah. Or gave him a very patronizing, this is going really well kind of thing. Seeds. And I think it's one of those things where, like, again, it's the same with JD. It's like, we want it to happen. Well, at least they're giving us a little moment of, let's sow the seeds and then get there.
Yeah, Matt Riddle and Drew won. Poor Viking Raiders, I guess. They had a segment later on where they were talking about challenging for the tag titles. A lot of teams challenging for tag titles that can't be defended at the moment because Kevin Owens is injured.
Got to make them look desirable somehow.
In literal storyline, they can't go for the belts. It's not even just like in news canon. Like in actual storyline, they can't challenge for the belts currently. But they were like, yeah, we're going to go for the tag titles. New Day walked up and was like, has the tag division gone mad? Like the Usos aren't together anymore. We've gone for a little bit and like the Usos aren't together anymore. You guys are challenging for the tag belts. Why don't we have a match next week? And we'll determine who is the #1 contenders for the tag titles. So I think you could have Drew and Riddle win next week. 7-match between Drew and Riddle versus Kevin Owens and Sami, and that's where you do the Drew turn.
Yeah. Did you spot? First of all, Xavier Woods looked exquisite.
Awesome.
Great new hair. Second of all, did you spot the little references they had? Did you spot the steel chairs they were holding?
No.
So there was a thing that went viral recently, which was the Montgomery Brawl.
Someone tweeted me about this. Yeah.
So the Montgomery Brawl was a thing that went down in Alabama over, I think it was over the weekend or maybe a bit before. Basically, a big old fight broke out, and it was a bunch of white guys beating up a black guy, and then from various different angles, a guy jumped off a boat and swam over and joined in the brawl. It became this huge thing, and then there was a guy swinging around a white folding chair. They were holding white folding chairs. I thought that was a really funny this white folding chair has been memed in the black Twitter community, especially. So it was a real nice little touch that they sourced a white folding chair, because those chairs are painted black everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice little touch from the New Day.
We got a recap of Raquel and Rhea's battles last week, and then Raquel informed Indi and Candice that she's still not cleared. Those doctors just won't clear me, but it's okay because Indi is going to have a match with Rhea Ripley tonight. Poor Indi Hartwell.
Why in the name of hell did Raquel Rodriguez have a knee brace over her combat trousers?
So you know as a viewer that her knee is hurting.
Then go to Nordstrom and buy her some shorts. I'm sorry. If she's rocked up that day wearing trousers and you need her to wear some shorts to show off the knee brace, because nobody puts a knee brace over their trousers, that looks silly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Also, I did see someone in the chat suggested they should be called bagpipes and hash pipes, which is which is good.
Much better.
So we then got Rhea Ripley versus Indi Hartwell. Oz on Oz violence. It was all Rhea, and Rhea won. Candice attacked Rhea after the match to set up Rhea versus Candice, which is, these are the little stepping stones that you take in order to get to Rhea Ripley and Raquel. I, in my edited review of this, said that, you might think, oh man, why would you just squash Indi Hartwell like this? And it's like, because Indi's not the focal point here. The focal point is Rhea Ripley on her journey towards Raquel Rodriguez. And someone in the chat said, I thought you were almost too kind to this because this did Indi no favors. My argument to that is it's not designed to give Indi favors. It's designed to make Rhea look good.
Yeah.
And Rhea did look good here because Rhea's going into the big match with Raquel Rodriguez. Indi Hartwell isn't.
No.
So you need to make Rhea look awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also a thing of Indi hasn't been on the telly.
No.
We don't know. This is her first match, except for that tag team turmoil match that was a whole pile of nonsense. So it was a way of, and also it was all playing out to no heat in front of a crowd that didn't care. So it's this whole business of they've got to get some reps in. They've got to be seen as a team. They just popped up last week or the week before talking to Raquel Rodriguez, so...
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's exactly what we thought was going to be the case. Next week she'll squash Candice LeRae, and then Raquel will reveal that she's now medically cleared, and they'll do their title match. At Payback.
So I like the idea of this one was a bit easy. Candice should give it to Rhea to make Rhea look fallible but still powerful.
Yeah, it's the same way as Chad Gable earlier in the night beat Giovanni Vinci as a stepping stone to get to Gunther.
Yes.
Cole interviewed Nakamura in the ring, answering all of his questions in Japanese. Ooh, the heel. But he did say a few things in English, like, I want the world title. Seth Rollins came out saying that, hey, I'm not really that hard to find because I dress like a tool. And if your ambush last week was a challenge, then challenge accepted. He said, you just name the time and place and we'll have a match. And then Nakamura did a little lost in translation. Did a little whisper in his ear, and Seth Rollins did some smell the fart acting.
He really did.
It was some real smell the fart acting. And then Nakamura hit him in the back of the head with a Kinshasa and he left.
I liked the sort of creepy way he held it. It was a bit Nosferatu-esque, the way he sort of took his hand and then the way he did a little whisper and then go, ooh, and then we're going to go away. I liked it.
Me too.
Talking about sowing seeds, credit to them for taking time to pull this Shinsuke turn. It was a couple of weeks, the build with the Bronson Reeds and right the way back to the stuff with Ricochet was really, and don't like people being in my business, was boring, but they committed to it, right? So then when the heel turn came, it at least had a trajectory, and now I'm like, okay, so interesting, he said something there. What did he say?
What did he say?
Why did it make Seth so perturbed? Because we see Seth as this big sort of he dresses the way he dresses and does all of this big, that's almost his gimmick. So Shinsuke being the one to play the mind games and get into his head was really interesting.
I'm so curious. I actually thought this was really effective.
I did too.
I was into the idea of Seth versus Nakamura anyway because on paper that should be a very, very good match. But this is a little bit of intrigue where I'm like, okay, cool. What did he whisper to him? In a way, I hope we never find out.
Yeah.
And it is a real lost in translation thing of it's just playing on Seth's mind. So you as an audience are supposed to try and figure out they can drop hints about what he said to him that kind of shook him a little bit. Next week they'll probably just say what it was that he said. But I kind of hope that they can play with this a little bit. So long as you, the writers, know what it is that Nakamura said, so you can play around with that, as opposed to he whispered something, we don't know what it is, but we don't need to know what it is because we're not going to say what it is anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I quite like this.
I was a fan.
We had a recap of The Miz and LA Knight from last week, and then Saxton interviewed The Miz, who was, as I predicted, back to being goofy Miz.
Did you see over the week? How do you feel about Ric Flair?
In what sense?
Do you have respect for Ric Flair? Do you like Ric Flair as a member of wrestling through history?
The Dark Side of the Ring episode from a couple of years ago has done him no favors.
Well, I haven't seen that because they don't put it on in the UK.
No, that was one of the ones that I watched on dodgy YouTube channels.
Right.
Yeah, it was the Plane Ride from Hell episode. Like, didn't pay him great. Did no favors to Tommy Dreamer either. And like, I think he is a problematic figure within the world of wrestling, but there is no denying what he has done for the wrestling world.
So this is a little bit going to die on its arse here because I didn't know that.
That's what killed his AEW run. But he was supposed to be the manager of Andrade El Idolo. Yeah, that was because that's his father-in-law.
Yeah.
So he was going to be brought in to be like, when they were doing all the things of like Chavo's his manager, and then Vicky's his manager, and then Jose's his manager. The idea was he can't find the right manager until Ric Flair comes in. And then the Dark Side of the Ring episode aired.
Interesting.
And Ric Flair lost a lot of advertising deals, and AEW were like, "Yeah, probably not going to bring you in for the time being."
All right, we'll rewind a little bit. Remove Ric Flair. I'm going to appeal to your 2005 TNA head. What do you think of Bully Ray?
Well,
oh, for God's sake. Look, other people are giving The Miz props. Is all I'm trying to get to here is that, generally speaking, the wrestling consensus is coming back to the idea that Miz is good. Miz is actually more talented than people give him credit for. I thought Miz was good in this segment. I'm excited to hear him versus LA Knight. Let's move on before I make more of a fool of myself.
I was going to say, Bully Ray has looked at the work that Booker T and Road Dogg and Eric Bischoff have done and be like, oh, that's how people talk about me. I just got to say thick things on radio shows, and then I get wrestling, and then I get wrestling news websites to write articles about me.
The Miz is really good. The Miz is really good.
What dim-witted thing can I say on TV, on a radio show this week that'll get me some clicks online and it'll get Twitter talking about me?
The only double Grand Slam champion in history. It's Miz.
Like, but then Bully Ray and Devon are like reuniting in Impact, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm into that.
There you go.
Because I'm a Dudley Boy's mark.
There it is.
Of course I am.
So do you respect Bully Ray's real life?
I'm a New Age Outlaws mark. It doesn't mean that Road Dogg doesn't say stupid things on radio shows. Proper thick things Road Dogg says on radio shows. But I am a NewAge Outlaws mark, and if they did an indie show where the New Age Outlaws were tagged together, you bet your bottom dollar I'd be like, ticket please, I'll go to that. But if he's sort of like, I think the Miz is a once-in-a-generational talent, I'd be like, there you go. That's his latest thick thing that he's saying on a radio show.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a lesson of when things absolutely fall apart for Dan Layton. They really do. I was like, oh, cool. People in the wrestling community are saying nice things about The Miz. I can rub it in Luke's face and continue to try and bend him to my will. Oh, no!
No, not this.
It turns out Luke knows things.
Also, I would say this is not the best Miz promo I've ever seen.
No, but like...
This was like proper... I've just flown in. I'll half-ass this one, then I'll go back to catering.
He doesn't half-ass anything. He's the Miz.
But also, it backs up a point I was making last week that he can't be both serious and goofy Miz.
Yeah, we disagree on that. We disagree on that. You can be both.
And I think
because Kofi was goofy Kofi, but still the champion. And that's what JR said. You can't be funny and be the champ. And I disagree with that.
Oh, I completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
But that's not the argument that I'm making. And I think it worked for Kofi because he's an affable person. Whereas the Miz is not. Like, he's not goofy. He's affable.
Oh, I see. That's a good distinction. I like that.
Yeah. Whereas Miz is like, no, I'm a goofy comedy heel, but every now and again I'll cut a promo being like, no, I'm a serious character now, and here I am, I'm work rate Miz this week.
Right.
Anywho, we then got the blow-off match to this months-long storyline between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, and I thought to myself, man, given the story that we've had, so this has been going on since WrestleMania, even before WrestleMania, they've been working this angle. I would have thought there'd be a video package to kind of explain the story, how we got here, treat this like a pay-per-view thing. Why isn't this the main event?
Yeah.
And it turns out the reason why it's not the main event is because it's not the final match in this story. They're just going to do it again because they both got counted out of the ring. And then we'll get to the real stupid part of this. But before we, thoughts on the match itself and the finish that we got, and it's sort of like its lack of actual finish presentation.
Well, I mean, I just have a rant about the whole thing.
I'll go through the whole thing then. So what happens is that they brawl to the outside, and they go up to the gimmick of the match is Zoe Stark is banned from ringside. So they brawl to the outside. They're brawling up the stairs. Referee calls for the bell. Ding, ding, ding. That's it. The match is over. It's a double count out. It's another draw in this feud or whatever. And they brawl up, and then they're brawling in the concession stand. And then Becky is going to give Trish the manhandle slam through a something, and she is stopped by a woman in a motorcycle helmet. And they take the helmet off immediately to reveal that it's Zoe Stark. And Michael Cole's like, she was banned from ringside. That's why Trish lured her up into here, because she's no longer at ringside where she's not banned from. And then they lay them out and they walk away. And then Adam Pearce is like, because they're all yuck, 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 yuck. We outsmarted the babyface here because you were banned from ringside. And then we actually attacked Trish, attacked Becky when you weren't at ringside. Yuck, 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 we're the heels. And Adam Pearce said, well, I'm going to order another match between the two of you. And next time we're not going to have any shenanigans because it's going to be a steel cage match.
Oh, right.
So
there we go.
This is all fine if you do not think about it.
Nope.
But the second you give it any semblance of thought, it all falls apart.
Nope.
Because Zoe was banned from ringside in the match, but the match was over. So
I need to cut you off there because you've already given it more credit than it deserves, because you said if you don't think about it, it makes some kind of sense. It don't make no kind of sense.
If you just listen to the commentary team, they're like, she was banned from ringside.
Wade Barrett said it. Wade Barrett did say it. He said, like, the match is over, so that kind of doesn't matter. And Cole went, anyway. Like,
oh, Wade, don't do that, mate.
It was
don't highlight how stupid this is.
But even before then, like I'm angry about this. Like I'm a bit hot about this because I gave WWE some credit for their commitment to sort of women's wrestling and the work that they had done.
I didn't, because I did Buried Triple H last week.
That's why I said I did.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Do apologize. I thought you might have said we as a collective.
No, I said I did.
Because again, this is a Triple H show, one women's match.
Well, this is what I'm so right. Allow me to rant for a minute and then I'll let you go.
I'm saying we rag on AEW for this whole thing, but Trips is probably worse.
This is what I'm trying to get to. So I'm saying that I have given them some credit in the past for their commitment to creating more opportunities and more main events and more stuff. I believed in it. It has been getting silly. Like the booking of the past year has been absolute dross. It's been dreadful. And
sorry, there were two matches. I forgot the Rhea Ripley match.
The Rhea Ripley match. I think it was already annoying that this was cut from SummerSlam, but I was like, look, I get it. You know, what else do you cut from the card? You want to keep it short. Then we had a 40-minute long Roman Reigns entrance and a no DQ match that was played at 0.5 speed, and I was like, there absolutely was time for Trish and Becky on this show. Then we come, so it's going to be in Canada. Okay, I get it. Make the best of a bad world. We'll make it the main event of a show in Canada. It was the only thing that was advertised for this show. And they didn't put it in the main event. It starts I don't even think it was the top of the third hour. It was during the third hour.
It was the semi-main.
Nobody's really paying any attention to at that point. Often, you know, if it's not the top of the hour, it's just in the middle of the broadcast. There was not a single video package for it. They announced it in a graphic at the start of the match, at the start of the show. There wasn't a video package for it throughout the show. It just sort of happened. And then I'm like trying to make the best of a bad situation. I'm like trying to look for good moments in the match. The match itself isn't really working very well. But there's a moment where she uses the mask or tries to use the mask as a weapon, as she did in the main event with Lita those years ago. It was a nice touch. It would have been a nicer touch if this was given the main event treatment. And then it gets a double count out. What the F is going on in here on this day? Like that is, I was just like, hang on, this was supposed to be the blow-off match, and Zoe's banned from ringside, and already I feel a little bit cheated from on their behalf. Becky's wearing her new lemon shirt, like it's all such nonsense.
Is that official merch?
Yes, it's official merchandise.
Hilarious.
They tweeted it all over the place.
That's hilarious.
Then and it made me think of, they go back into the backstage. Remember when Jericho and Strong had a match on Dynamite and Cole was banned from the building, so they brawl outside and Cole's banned from the building but not outside, and they get one over on him. The reason that worked is because in that scenario Jericho was the heel who had put the face at a disadvantage and then got hoisted on his own petard, like fooled by his own moxie. They're outside of the building, so now we can get Cole involved in some way, and it felt like a climax and a real moment of celebration.
It was genuinely good.
Yeah, it was really genuinely good. I remember absolutely loving it. If you're not sure that Trish can go in the appropriate way, then that's when the old classic sort of like smoke and mirrors of doing a brawl and going all over the place does work. So you could have had this moment of I will take you on. You want Zoe banned from ringside? Fine, let's have a no disqualification match, and then you can sucker her into the story, and then you can carry it on in that way. There are ways to do this booking where it works, but they haven't done that. And this is the latest example of where they haven't done it. And for now, the program, which has many things for which I give it credit. Trish getting really, really in there in the Money in the Bank match. Really like thrilled for her to do that. The rub it's trying to give Zoe Stark. Zoe and Becky have had some really good matches. They have great chemistry together. There are things for which I give it credit. It now has an equal number of things I criticize. It's going to drag on even longer when it should have finished at SummerSlam 2 weeks ago. And what we have here is something really annoying, which is something I've seen already, which is a steel cage match, the Becky Lynch way. The build is mid, the match gets bantered off with absolutely no respect. She gets whacked in a cage match, and then probably Lita will come back to make the save, which is the exact same thing that happened with Damage Control at the start of this thing. That, for me, is so irritating that at Raw 30 they got bantered off, and they got bantered off at SummerSlam again, and it just keeps happening this way. What's going on? I'm angry at it. It made me really angry. That's my piece.
And I don't think you're wrong in anything that you have just said there. I apologize for any interruptions at the start of your spiel there. It wasn't professional of me. However, for me, the thing that irritated me the most in this was just the huge logic hole in, Michael Cole being angry, and you're supposed to be furious. Adam Pearce was furious because you heels bent the rules. And it's like, there are no rules anymore. The match was over. The match was already done. Zoe Stark could have attacked her in the ring and it wouldn't have been a problem because the match was over. Zoe Stark was banned from ringside during the match. Then the match finished. Then he attacked her. We're supposed to be mad about that. It's like, well, why wouldn't she attack her? The match is over. Stipulation's no longer in place.
And it's that lack of logic that makes it feel like it's not effort.
And so Andy Tatson in the office, we were talking about this earlier, said it really feels like because Twitter got really mad that Becky and Trish were taken off of SummerSlam, they're just going to keep giving it to you until you don't want it anymore. And that's your punishment for complaining that it wasn't on SummerSlam. In the same way that they gave us lots of bad AJ Nakamura matches because we kept asking for them, because the Wrestle Kingdom match they had was like one of the greatest Wrestle Kingdom matches ever, and we're like, oh, now you get to do it in WWE. So we're like, oh, you want that, do you? Well, here's it again and again and again and again. Each one of them's got an incrementally worse finish. Oh yeah, you still want more of it, and you're like, actually no, I don't want to see that match ever again.
No.
And it's like, good. And then they did it with AJ and Joe. Oh, you want to see AJ and Joe? Do you want to see them rekindle that TNA 2005? Do you? Well, here it is again and again and again with incrementally worse finishes. Do you want to see it anymore? No, not really. And it really feels like that's what they do with Becky and Trish now. We complained so much that we didn't get it at SummerSlam. They're like, oh, you want it, do you? Well, it's what, you like donuts? Here's all the donuts. Like it's
they're making us eat a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm really ready for this to be done.
Yeah.
I was ready for this to be done at SummerSlam, and it's just being like artificially extended. And I wonder if they're just going to do the cage match at Payback. And that's like, okay, we didn't do it at SummerSlam, but we're doing it at Payback instead.
Right. Which, like, it's ultimately comes down to,
because they didn't announce when the cage match was.
No. If that's what's going to happen, they're going to give it a match at Payback. Like, fine, good. Like, it's just the booking of it. Have it make sense. Make an effort. Put your logic hat on. Like, let's be good about this. Don't just like it just feels bantering off. And it's the fact that it is now the second time. And the reason I'm a little bit heated is because I first of all care very deeply about these issues and about women's wrestling, but also you're making me look like an idiot, Triple H, because I've defended you. I've defended your commitment to women's wrestling, which I still believe was in the past a real thing.
It was.
Izzy Moreno has just had her first match. Izzy, Bayley's super fan, and so that sent me off on an old nostalgia haul. And I was going back and looking at Brooklyn with Sasha and Bayley, their Iron Woman match, the Respect match, which was great. Then
arguably better than the Brooklyn match.
I agree. Bayley's entire run as champion, followed by Asuka's entire run as champion. Like this
the
commitment.
Mae Young Classic.
The Mae Young Classic twice, Shayna Baszler twice. I agree. I feel so passionately that this is a roster stacked with incredibly talented women. Becky made people take notice. That incredible shot of her with the Survivor Series. You know, these women work so hard, and they deserve to get treated with the level of respect, not just in putting them on the show, but in how their stories are put together.
Can I give you an incredibly cynical argument?
Go ahead.
That was at a period in time when women in sports was a thing. It's not a thing anymore because now it's just a standard. Like, you know, the Lionesses winning the World Cup. It's like, fine.
Well, fingers crossed, don't jinx it. They're playing tomorrow against Australia. They might not.
But, you know, like, 5 years ago, them winning a tournament would have been like, this groundbreaking thing. It's now just women main eventing wrestling shows is just a regular thing now. And because it's just a regular thing now, and it's not a part of much of the zeitgeist conversation, it's like, no, we don't need to pretend like we care as much as we did 7 years ago. Yeah, that is my completely cynical worldview on this. Apologies if my wife is watching, that she finds that turned to be an ick. That is my cynical worldview to put on this. I'm not saying that is the case, but I've been watching WWE for 20 odd years, and like they have got a track record of this sort of thing, of trying to put their finger on the pulse, and when that pulse is no longer beating hard, they take that finger off it and move on to something else.
That would, if that is anywhere close to true, it is painful. It hurts.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a
But
nice
it
thing.
tracks.
And I also feel like I'm maybe tinfoil hat conspiracy here. Stephanie's not around anymore, and I wonder how much. I mean, and there's two things that I've seen some people comment online. Since Stephanie's gone, the level of commitment to the women's division and also the charitable work has kind of taken a bit of a backseat, which I find really interesting. Also, I would like to see, and this was a question that was asked to Tony Khan, and it's something we talked about in AEW as well. It counts for WWE as well. What does the makeup of the writers' room look like? If there aren't the voices in the room, that's why we talk about wanting a diverse, it's not just to tick a couple of boxes. It's because I can't write stories of like Asian culture, and I can't write about what it's like to be. I can do research, I can do excessive research, but unless you have the voices in the room to listen to share their experience, to be like, I care about this issue, so I'd like to, add a little bit of quality to it, then there's no voice there to speak up for it. And if this room is just a bunch of old white guys, maybe that's another reason.
Yeah, I don't think Triple H. I know we've used this term a lot, but it's one I very much enjoy. Bantering off that journalist that was asking about matches being pulled, and like just flat out lying to her at the SummerSlam press conference, being like, women's matches were pulled. It's like, no, nothing was pulled from this show. No, the show was too long. Absolute balderdash. Like that match and the Raquel match were pulled from SummerSlam. Like he did pull those two matches. So I don't think he does. I just don't think it's the thing that they've got. That's not their priority at the moment because it's not the hot ticket item that it once was.
Give Divas a chance.
But anyway, that's actually the end of the show because then it was Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor. So yeah, I thought this was a bland episode of Raw. I gave it 2 out of 5 in my edited review, and really a lot of that was actually just for the end angle. I just thought it was actually really good, but I probably would have still given this 2 out of 5. Like the end angle might have pushed me into it being okay, that's an average episode of Raw, give it 3, but yeah, I mean, it's thumbs in the middle.
Yeah, not just because the Premier League came back this week. There's a game of two halves for me. I thought the first half was sort of interesting. There was some stuff that I was appreciating, and then by the end, I was cross. And I liked the closing angle as well. I agree, but I was cross. So
our poll is currently up at the moment, so please do get your thoughts in. Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, and thumbs down. We'll read out the results before the end of the show. I mean, good point there. Actually, someone just said like, "Oh, we could do with Evolution too." I think the fact they haven't done a second Evolution show shows how much of a this was just the cultural zeitgeist. Also, lest we not forget, Evolution was only done because of the Saudi deal and the backlash that the Saudi deal got. Yeah, the Evolution was announced shortly after as a way to sort of appease the critics that they were getting for the, at that point, male-only pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into our Patreon Pledgehammer shoutouts. If you want to join the wonderful Pledgehammers, head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Tomorrow will be a brand new piece of WrestleTalk content with WrestleTalk After Dark. I'm thinking we might try and do the After Dark show that got lost last month, which featured Social Media Abby and editor Adam Whitney's debut on the show.
Oh, fun!
But then unfortunately the file got corrupted, so we had to do a redo of it.
Yeah.
Pete won't be here, but we'll work out a way. But Abby's in the room, Abby's in the building. Maybe we'll have Abby on the show. But that'll be going live tomorrow on Patreon, and then the following week it'll be mine and Ollie Davis' review of SummerSlam 2013, featuring Punk and Brock, and of course Cena and Bryan with the Orton cash-in at the end. So yeah, we'll be reviewing those over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But if you're one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on this show like these fine folk. Have a glass of Sherry Martell, Jay Simmons,
The Real Boss, Matt Robinson,
Max Kurt Wallander, Wallen,
Michael Mark for Life, Plowman.
This is some kind of Patreon shout-out. Nate dropped surname.
The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
The number one villain, Nikolai Martinson.
The intriguing infrared, Nia Alfredo Vile.
Peter Fiber Brontus.
Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly.
The man who wears the gold, the man recognized by Swap Nation International as the 24/7 champion, Legend.
And Raw's brand ambassador, Redmond 2490.
That is your Hall of Fame class for the 15th of August, 2023. And with that, it is time to get into your remaining Alpha Chat with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And Shaggy Dudley here says, I've never been able to take JD McDonaugh seriously ever since the chant of, your head's too big for you, that was sung while he wrestled in Progress.
Your head's too big for you. Chants are some of my favorite things.
Yeah. And it's a very British thing to chant at JD as well.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being, I referenced this Progress show a handful of times, but he had a match with Carl Fletcher of Aussie Open. That's genuinely got one of my favorite finishes of all time, and that was one of those, like, crowd having a bit of fun with JD, but then the match kind of kicked in and I was like, oh no, this is actually just real good.
Yeah.
Eddie Pat 14 said, I know it wasn't likely to happen, but I really want to see Jason Jordan give Gable a pep talk ahead of his IC title match. Well, we never got any closure, Luke, on IG. The end is near for American Alpha. We'd love to have seen them together for something. We never got any closure on IG.
I think I meant to say it. I might be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I didn't, I am on.
Unless it's just it's a.
Never got any closure, Luke.
Unless
IG.
It's weirdly written down. So, like, for instance, the end is near. We never got any closure for American Alpha. Would have loved them to see them together. Also, we never got any closure. I don't know.
Yeah. We'd love to see them together.
Luke, here we go. I see what's happened. I'm going to, give me a go here. I think this has been corrupted and there are two sentences put together. So I think it says, we never got any closure for American Alpha. Would have loved to see them together for something. Also, Luke on IG, the end is near.
Right. I see.
We solved it.
Well done. That was like
don't call me Professor Layton for nothing.
That was like a Krypton Factor challenge. David Evans here says, hi, gents. Looking forward to another 2-hour-long show for me to listen to while I work. Glad to see Vipers back on TV and as a title holder, no less. Still waiting on Tegan, although I like Dan's suggestion of a women's G1. A she-one, if you will, which is what Eve calls their tournament.
Eve does call it she-one, and it's a brilliant name. And
Wrestle Queendom is also a great name for them.
They've got the bloody Mae Young Classic. They've got their own branding. Let's do something with that.
Dan, it's not a popular thing anymore.
Don't care.
Until it becomes a popular thing again, then they'll do it. Or unless they get a lot of... okay, so AEW had their, bad week for press with
Chuck Sheeder in the main event. It'll be fine.
I was going to say that their bad week of press with the Lufisto thing, and their response to that was, we'll have Sheeder in the main event for 2 weeks. So
bollocks.
Once WWE have their bad PR time,
and it starts tonight
with the women's division, then we'll have, they'll announce the Mae Young Classic, and you'll get what you want.
I'll pull a Miz promo where I'm like, I defend the women. Don't clip that.
Felix's VT says, hot take, but I don't get Gunther.
Whoa!
Been seeing posts from WWE and fans about how powerful he is. Mate, he barely got Otis up for the powerbomb, then fell over afterwards. Get Grandpa Gunther out of there before he hurts someone.
That last part's a bit.
Yeah.
He ain't Nia Jax.
No, that's I don't agree with that.
I do feel like the beginning of that match took a little while to get going, to the point where I was like checking my watch, which I don't usually feel with a Gunther match, but and it's
not his best one.
It's not his best powerbomb, but
it's not his best match. But if you don't,
I was about to say, you try and lift up Otis.
You don't get Gunther, watch the Clash of the Castle match.
Yeah.
Or watch the Mania Triple Threat, which was arguably the best match of the weekend.
Yeah.
On a weekend of tremendous matches. Aaron Hanrahan has been a member for 23 months in a row, said nobody's talking about the fact that Cody is a heel. Hitting Balor with the briefcase. Boo that man. Also, sorry, TNA fans. SummerSlam 2013 won the poll.
I did have a moment where I was like, it is a heel thing to use the weapon. That said, it's also a smart thing. They've brought the weapon in, you might as well. And then Sami Zayn came out and bashed everyone with a steel chair, which is also kind of healing.
It's comeuppance.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all. But yes, TNA fans, unfortunately, we did not get another 2009 TNA show in the poll. But also, Hardcore Justice 2010 did not win.
I'm so sorry.
Alsfan83 said, Nakamura challenging for the title. Sure, the match will be good, but do I care? Absolutely not. Had they built Nakamura for 6 months, then maybe. Like most title matches, I don't buy him as a threat to the title. You need to build your challenges. That's from Ben Ashmore.
Yeah,
I think in fairness, that's what the Bronson Reed feud was for, was to build him up. He got the win on Bronson Reed and on that show where he became the challenger for the world title. I think they have been building him up since he came back.
Have they? But I think I agree with you. I think the question could be, have they built him to main event level yet?
No.
But that doesn't matter, because have they done that with the world heavyweight title?
I was going to say, like, there is literally only one person on this roster that I would buy taking the title off of Seth Rollins, and it's the one person who doesn't want to win in Cody Rhodes. He's literally the only person I would say, and Priest, because he's got the briefcase. But like,
and maybe Sammy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense for him to go for it. But
no, and also I feel like Sammy's lost all momentum after WrestleMania.
I don't know about that. I know what you mean.
He's still over, but he is not main event.
Right.
He's main eventing Raw, but he is not main eventing pay-per-views. Sami Zayn.
This is why, at the beginning of the show I kind of made a joke about All In having a great card and no build, and how WWE is all build and no card. It's what is frustrating about. It's what's extra frustrating. And I know there are some people on the discourse who don't like people saying that Cody should have won at Mania or whatever, because they're like, "Oh, get over it. It's happened now. It's months ago." But I think we're feeling the effects of it all. I think when you've had a moment leading up to WrestleMania, it hasn't been that hot since 2000, 2001. Like, that was incredible, and you just didn't do anything with it. And now we're here.
I would say that because there are reports coming out that WWE feel that
they've done the right call,
they made the right thing, is 100% them realizing they might not have done, but are having to say, we did do the right thing because look at the business metrics.
Yeah. And look, the business metrics are fine.
But they would have been fine if Cody had won as well.
I agree. And actually, they would have been even finer next year.
Professional Idiot said, I'm a big fan of Chad Gable's finisher. It just needs to be a bit more teasing in the match to give it that true finisher feel. I wholeheartedly feel, however, that creative missed a trick by not calling it the German Schuschplex.
That's very funny. That's very funny.
We actually had the poll results, of course, of should the Chaos Theory suplex be Gable's finish? Yes, 61%, whereas no said 38.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
38 said no, rather. We've also got a message here from Benny Boy, who says, unrelated to Raw, but I thought Luke would find this funny. Last night, I was playing my GM mode on 2K23 and booked my Season 4 WrestleMania card. Had it all planned out, about to blow off 8 of my rivalries. Decided to play the first match, and I forgot my logistics.
Amazing. You rock out there on your final WrestleMania after literally 100 weeks worth of build. And it's like, here's WrestleMania! From the Black Hawks gym. I love that. That's great.
And Will Chisholm has become a member. Right, let's end the poll here and find out what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And it is, for the first time in a while, 58% mid.
Yeah.
23% thumbs up and 18% thumbs down, which actually is almost the same number. That's a real, it's split thumbs up, thumbs down, but that is very heavily. That's a mid show.
I think
we don't tend to get that. It's usually always thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting about that is that overwhelmingly, I think it's in a weird way that's still positive. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's not like this was rubbish.
Because it wasn't rubbish.
Because it wasn't rubbish. It just was not a lot.
No.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for this episode of the show. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here and you've made it this far. Give us a little thumbs up as well. 200 of you have done it so far, but there's 1,100 of you watching. So sort that out. And leave your comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. We're going to be back on Thursday with AEW Dynamite. And then on Saturday, we'll have the SmackDown review. And then, oh boy, next week, it's a busy one because we'll have Collision. We'll have Raw.
We will.
We'll have All-In predictions.
We will.
We will have Dynamite. We will have, hopefully, fingers crossed, a very special show on Friday.
Oh, hello.
And then on Saturday, it'll be SmackDown. And then on Sunday, I don't know what we're going to be doing for All In, but we'll probably do a review of All In on the Monday.
Because we're going to be there.
Because we're going to be there.
Hanging around.
There won't be any live reactions to All In because we're all going.
Yeah.
So,
so no one in the office.
We're all in the building.
Yeah.
So there's going to be no one here to do the live reactions. So sorry about that. But we'll probably do a review the following day. And we'll do some reports from the building itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you subscribe because we've got a hell of a lot of content coming up, including what I'm hoping to be very special show next Friday.
Do I know what it is?
I think yes. Yeah, I told you what it is.
That sounds like a fun one.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a real fun one.
Yeah.
That's all we've got time for, though. I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been your Jam That Champion, the Professor Dan Layton. And that is it. Jam That Jam. Bye, everyone.